have the Druid versus the Rogue. And this looks like Strifecro already off to a pretty decent start. He's got 2 cards that'll be problematic for Stunner right off the bat.
Yeah, man. Spectral Knight, pretty good against Rogue and Wild Growth. Obviously something that you want as a start for any Druid deck really these days. And it seems like pretty much every Druid deck is running Wild Growth at the moment.
We did start off the tournament talking about how Rogue was still a contender, Rogue was still doing powerful things, and even a good handful of players, not all of them, decided that Rogue was one of the decks that they wanted to bring. In reality, we've actually seen Rogue underperform a little bit in this tournament. So Hunter, we know that there was some nerfs that affected Hunter, and people still are willing to bring it, willing to play it, and that worked out. Rogue hasn't worked out as well, at least in this tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree. Rogue was one that everyone was watching out for, but it just has not been winning games. It's been Hunter that's been the big success story, and of course Zoo as well. But look at this, really,
he's got
big
Sun
turn.
Fury Protector, and if it goes down on the Spectral Knight, I don't see how this Rogue is getting past that wall.
Well, one of the only ways to get through those types of walls is to get a minion in play and have a card like the one he has in hand, Cold Blood. That is going to be his hope. He's fingers crossed that he can have a minion in play ready to pick up that Cold Blood. If he can't do it, then yes, that Spectral Knight with Sun Fury Protector taunt on it would be a huge problem.
But then how does the Druid really expect to let something like Thanos live? It's not even the fact that it's a minion that has like any kind of a body for a Cold Blood. It's the fact that it's spell power. You don't trust Rogue to do any kind of thing with it. So usually if Thanos is out, you need a turn for the Druid not to attack before you can get the Cold Blood down. So it's going to be very tricky for Stunner.
Yeah, he's going ahead and just weaponing up this time. And now back to Druid. Chillindiani, well, I say you still go with that Shaded Naxxramas here.
Yeah,
it's too good not to put down so early.
That's true. It was the plan last turn.
Right.
I think it's still good enough to be the plan this turn. He's considering playing Wild Growth instead.
Yeah.
It is very tempting to play Wild Growth because then on turn 5 he'll play his Spectral Knight, and then on turn 6 he can play Chillwind Yeti and taunt them both. That is a really powerful turn, but Growing the Shade is good too.
You're right, except that's turns 3 and 4.
Whoa.
Oh, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like when you phrase it like that,
When
like turn 3 Spectral Knight, turn 4.
Yeah. I say turn 5 and turn 6, but yeah, his 5 mana turn and his 6 mana turn.
I just want to put
5.
perspective on how fast you're able to ramp up because of this.
That is one of the cool things that Druid is able to do that a lot of other classes don't have access to.
Wow, this is a crazy turn right now for Stunner. Just playing that SI7 agent without the combo or anything, just getting that 3/3 out on the board, saying, all right, please trade with me.
Double Spectral Knight. There is a possibility this game of having 2 taunted Spectral Knights against a Rogue that is going to have a hard time dealing with it.
Good luck, Rogue, at that point. I mean, you can't sap it. You can't do anything. You need the world's biggest Blade Flurry, and that's probably not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, he's going to need a bigger knife.
Sap it. Can't attack around it.
Either that or he's got to be running
like
Vanish or something to send it back if it's taunted up.
Twisted Nether or Twisting Nether if it was a Warlock. And he does actually trade. He wants to protect that Chillwind Yeti. So that actually works out okay for the SI7 agent.
Right.
But well,
there's one of the cards that can possibly make through even taunted Spectral Knights.
Yeah, maybe. Blade Flurry
is enough damage on your weapon along with the Blade Flurry. So that is one thing he can do. So he's just going to go ahead and Shiv. He's going to get that guy down. He's thinking maybe he wants to Blade Flurry at next turn, but he doesn't know that what's coming out is a Spectral Knight. He may, even just one Spectral Knight, he may be tempted to play the Deadly Poison and attack into the Spectral Knight and Blade Flurry to kill both minions. What he doesn't know, of course, there will be another Spectral Knight coming after that. So
there's plenty more where that came from.
Plenty more.
Say so. So let's see. We're going to probably see the Spectral Knight this turn. Are we going to see the Chillwind Yeti trade into Thalnos, though?
It seems pretty likely. He's probably worried about the spell power. It is a scary thing to leave up in play. And he'd rather get the Spectral Knight down this turn instead of just hero powering.
Well, there's the Auctioneer, but he doesn't really have any way to go off with it this turn. No coin, no prep, nothing like that. So it will just be that removal turn instead.
Yep, so he's got the Deadly Poison Blade Flurry, and he's got some spells. You can just pair together preparations, and he picks up Conceal. Druid can't really respond to that without Loatheb, and I don't see one in the opposing hand.
No, not really. That Spectral Knight, though, is going to be really valuable. I'm sure we're going to see that go down like in an instant.
Well, Strifecro's going to try and figure out what the best thing to play is here. He actually might not play it this turn. could, and he would have the ability to taunt it up, of course, the following turn. He might be feeling that something like an Auctioneer could be coming, so you're right, he does play this right.
That was a pretty fast turn for Strifecro right there. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, backstab, not too useful. You have to backstab yourself to get any value out of that with the Auctioneer. And
usually when you're playing Rogue against Druid, playing Auctioneer, giving it Cold Blood, or maybe just playing a, you know, just the Sinister Strike is not where you want to be. It turns it into sort of just an Azure Drake. It only cycles for one card.
You know, if he had Conceal or something, he could go for it. You know, he could put that out there and make sure it's safe. But right now, he'd have to, you know, really, really take a risk of drawing into it, or drawing into a prep, rather, which would then draw into it.
Yeah, no Conceal available. This is a very tough turn for Stunner.
Yeah, the problem of dropping the Auctioneer, and of course, if you play like Cold Blood, it challenges the Spectre Knight, but you're just hoping that your opponent doesn't have a swipe directly to remove it, and then you lose your main card engine draw. He's going to choose for Sinister Strike.
Wow, he's going to go for it. Starting the draw as he gets
the
preparation.
Okay.
All right, we could be seeing something work out here. Let's see.
I think you cash it in. There's no point of holding on to it at the moment.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get to use it.
He's running out of time, too. He has to make a decision. The animations do take a while.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, man, I think he waited a little bit too long.
No, Shadow Step. Okay, he probably will Shadow Step it back.
I'd Shadow Step it. Yeah, I think that's the safest play.
Very last second.
Yep.
Backstab number 2. So he will have a 3-mana Gadget and Auctioneer. So if he does have minions to backstab, which it looks like he will, he may be able to find something better to do next turn. Maybe even be able to conceal his Auctioneer. But he will have taken so much damage that it will start to be very scary if his opponent has anything like the combo.
How about this Cairn Bloodhoof, man? Talk about minions that are good against Rogue. That's definitely one of the ones near the top of the list. But he's going to go for the draw first with the Azure Drake. Is he Innervate? That's going to be useful later.
Yeah, the problem with Cairn, though, as the game does develop on, is it's very likely your opponent has Sap, and then you're losing that 4-mana return, or sorry, that trade-off, and then Rogue usually has something on board. But this is where Spectre Knight comes into play, where if he saps and he doesn't have anything on board, well, I guess you just play Cairn again and impose pressure. Right. If he didn't have that Azure Drake, I think Cairn would have been the great choice there.
Well, as it stands now, he's deciding if he wants to just play that Sun Fury Protector. There's no big threat coming right now where he has to play the taunt. He could wait until later, but it does still develop an additional minion into play, which he wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
I mean, okay. Already seeing one Blade Flurry run 2, and a lot of Rogues only run one of those.
Yeah. He's got 2 targets for backstab, so he can cycle through a lot of his deck. Conceal is nice.
That helps.
But something also important. Oh, he gets SI7 agent. That's nice removal. Because I was saying something important to note is that, you know, Strifecro did have Savage Roar, so if he picked up Force of Nature, the game could end, regardless of what Stunner is doing at the moment.
Well, and at this point, he could even hold on to the prep until he has something better to use it on. His opponent is likely to play Cairn, and so having prep and sap next turn would be very strong.
Yes.
Here's a question, though. You know, would that 2 damage maybe have been from the SI7 agent maybe been a little bit better on the Spectral Knight? Because it's one of the few sources that you can actually target the Spectral Knight with, right? That would make it so you could trade with the Auctioneer once the Auctioneer wasn't useful anymore. And there is Lotheb.
Sorry to interrupt,
destroys it.
But what a draw. Like, that is the most important thing you need against a Concealed Gadget Sand. Wow.
That was a huge deal. And it went from a game that it looked like Stunner was almost certain to start turning it around to one where maybe Strifecro will be able to push through and actually win.
That's certainly possible. He's got 6 damage on the board already. And yeah, I think he just played that Lotheb.
As far as talking about having the SI target the Spectral Knight, I do like the way Stunner played it. He is holding Cold Blood, and Cold Blood plus the SI7 agent does take out the 6 health of the Spectre Knight quite nicely. Not perfectly efficiently, but still close enough that that's a good plan. I think that was the plan he was going for, and why he decided to remove as much damage as possible.
Reels.
Oh, wow, but he uses
Savage Roar.
Turn, he Savage Roars.
This is so Strifecro.
Wants to get him low, and I mean, this guy knows what he's doing with Druid. I wouldn't question it. And he's got him down to 10 health.
Yeah.
Such a crazy board to have to try to get through for Stunner.
Strifecro loves these kinds of plays. He likes using whatever opportunity to be aggressive with Savage Roar. I've seen it many times, and of course, very applicable in this scenario.
And now the Cold Blood is no longer a great answer.
Yeah,
it would have been
way too expensive.
but he was hoping to sap whatever minion his opponent played. If it hadn't been Loatheb, if Karin had been the best card for Strifecro to play,
brand new game,
this game would have been turning very quickly into Stunner's favor. As it stands, even if he doesn't get to do anything great this turn, Strifecro still doesn't have a way to finish off the game immediately. I'm sure Stunner's afraid that he is. Stunner was probably figuring like, well, if he's using Savage Roar last turn, he's just going to kill me next turn. As of right now, Strife doesn't have it yet, but he is sitting pretty.
That's true. He's definitely got the intimidation factor, though. Let's see. What does he go for? His own Loatheb, possibly. He can also, I mean, the thing is Azure Drake, whatever you draw into, you're not really going to be able to use. So,
yeah, if
not
it were
the greatest turn.
If it were a second SI7 or something, or did he already play one earlier? I don't know.
He played one SI7 agent so far. We don't know if he's got a second one in his deck yet, though. You'd think he probably does, but we don't know.
You'd think so. That would have been a way to trade more efficiently, but that would have only been if he had actually had a good, I don't know. I lost track of my thoughts.
I understand something better, a better response.
Sure, right.
To that.
Exactly.
Well, Karin is really the only minion really to play here. I mean, the thing is that he can't, what do you do, Innervate? Yeah, Innervate, 5 mana. You get 2 back, right? You can use that to 7 mana.
He can Innervate Karin. Yeah,
right? That's right.
Is that what he can do?
He's mostly just trying to figure out what he wants to do for his next couple turns. And part of it will make a difference about whether or not he decides to trade. His opponent is at 8, and he could do 6 damage right now and put him at 2. Is that what he wants to do, or is he worried enough that he feels like he wants to trade? He's taking it into consideration now.
Against
you killed off.
Oh, it was, you know, against this new Zoo or this new Rogue deck, I wouldn't really be too worried about it, honestly. I mean, if it was the old Rogue, yeah, I'd be a little bit worried going into this turn with that much health. But right now, I don't think so. How about you?
I think you're exactly right. You're not worried too much about the burst. You've already killed off Gadget Stand. His draw engine's been completely dampered.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for your opponent to just remove everything and then start imposing on the board. And 2 damage is so easy to pick up.
Removing everything is what's going to happen. So if Strife doesn't find...
But he's got 3 draws next turn. To find anything, whether it's Swipe, Keeper of the Grove, Druid of the Claw, Force of Nature, second Savage Roar. There's plenty of outs for Strifecro.
Yeah, you're right, man.
But I like pushing a lot of damage. At least it sets up potential lethal.
You have to go for it. I mean, this is what's going to win you the game, not just kind of sitting and playing passively, but so
3
much
cards
for
to find
to
damage. 3 cards.
You're right.
There's a high likelihood. It'd be an amazing series if you didn't get it.
Drew
the Claw.
Yep, Drew the Claw. Going to put that in charge mode immediately, and he's going to take game 1.
On the back of some Spectral Knights.
No BM from Strifecro. No Wild Growths, no Rats.
No.
Could have innervated out something else. But
he's a Hearthstone machine. He's more machine now than man.
Oh, he's definitely more man. He's showing kind and mercy.
That's true. Okay. He's more man now than machine. We'll put it that way.
For now, until he turns on the fumes.
That's Strifecro taking game 1 with his Druid deck. Not too surprising. I mean, this is what you expect out of Strifecro, right? To bring a Druid in, play it.
Now I do see a Wild Growth. That's an excellent start. The ideal one you want.
All Shaded Naxxramas too.
It's interesting whether or not he'll decide to keep the Wrath. Usually it's the type of card that you just end up cycling in this matchup. It's hard to get full value out of it to trade it evenly for another minion. He does actually get rid of it. He's rewarded with the Black Knight in its spot where it was. So the Black Knight, it's not something that gives you some kind of really huge early advantage, but it can be a swing card in this matchup. It'll be interesting to see as the game goes on whether or not Strifecro will decide to play around it, if he can, or if he'll have to walk into it. As it stands, one player has Wild Growth, the other doesn't. But
well, that's a big part in Druid versus Druid. You want to have that stronger start.
It is a nice start, but Strifecro isn't doing too bad. He also will have a Shade, and it will come out just after his opponent. So he definitely has tools in the toolbox of the deck to navigate even a game where your opponent has Wild Growth and you don't.
Yep, coin Wild Growth is essentially saying I'm going first.
Yep.
And you don't get the coin.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, actually.
Well, you give up an actual card to have permacoin.
Sure. And it's true, and you do get to go first, and oftentimes going first is a very big advantage in these mirrors. You're playing your threats first, essentially.
This isn't bad, too. I mean, you see your opponent run Wild Growth, so Strifecro just dropping down the Sunfury Protector and saying, all right, well, I'm going to put something out on the board that you're going to need to deal with at some point, otherwise I'm going to start poking away at that life total.
Right. Yeah. So I do like dropping it there on turn 2. It is really good. Waiting until it taunts is not really that big a deal in this matchup.
Yeah.
Having it trade for any resources early is something that can turn out very well. So now it's a dueling shade game. One of these shades is not like the others, though. Even though he went second, Stunner's got out there first.
Well, that fixes the curve slightly for Stunner. But how does he want to utilize this? He's got a couple of choices, Aerials.
He does have a couple of choices. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a great thing to do this turn. And even next turn, he would have had a good play to make already with the Azure Drake, and playing an on-curve Ancient Allure is better, but not by such a huge margin as doing something that you normally couldn't do. Sometimes Innervate lets you, of course, break your curve and do something crazy. So it's not as good, the Innervate, as it could have been. He would have been much happier with something like a Chillwind Yeti this turn. Means that this turn is either going to be doing nothing or just powering out the Azure Drake one turn sooner.
Oh my!
Going
for
he just plays
Black Knight.
That I would not have expected. That is a card that is often a swing card, but he's valuing the body, and he's not necessarily wrong at all.
Well, I mean, you don't really see Druid of the Claw played in taunt form in Druid versus Druid too often, and that's really generally the only taunt in these modern Druid decks anyway. So it seems a bit surprising, but you can really see the logic behind it.
Yeah, Strife's going to respond immediately by using Savage Roar, clearing the board, saying, you know what, well, you're going to invest a card that it is going to be really useful against me traditionally. And that makes him feel so much more comfortable dropping things like Druid of the Claw and taunt versus when you have to count for playing around it.
Yeah.
And Spectral Knight seems reasonable. He's still got a turn 6 play with that Azure Drake as well, so it's not like he needs to draw right now.
Very good point, though. Like, now he can take initiative. This is where coining out Wild Growth was really important earlier on, because from whatever comes out, like Strifecro for now feels like he can't play Azure Drake. It just immediately gets destroyed, and now he's forced to play this Druid of the Claw. And from there, you can dictate how your opponent does.
Yeah, and I said you don't see that very often, but after you see the Black Knight, you know, why not, right?
Yep. He knows it's safe from being Black Knighted, so I guess Stunner's going to do Strifecro in turn and also Savage Roar in order to trade, except his minion is going to survive this time. So
yeah, taking a page out of the Strifecro's book and using that early Savage Roar to great effect. And I think that's really one of the keys with learning to play these new Druid decks, is learning, you know, how versatile Savage Roar can be. It's a great finisher, but it's also really good throughout the game as removal too.
It really is, and it's letting him maintain initiative here. Strifecro thought he was, or was hoping he was going to survive the turn with the minion in play. Instead, he does not. The initiative stays over on Stunner's side. Strifecro gets to just play a minion and not be ready to attack with it. His opponent even has an Ancient Allure in hand and is going to be able to refill his hand right away.
That is very valuable. Ancient of Lore. There used to be a golden rule of Druid versus Druid. Like, the first person to play Ancient of Lore is in a big advantage. But how about this? 2 Ancient of Lores back to back. I think Stunner is being rewarded for some of what happened to him the previous game.
I guess so. He's gotten just every single draw he needs at this point in this match. And does Strifecro have a way to clear this efficiently?
Well, he can take some damage to his face and kill everything but the 2 Spectral Spiders. That is something he could do, and he would still have his Cairn in play, or rather, he would end up with Bane in play as a 4/5 versus the 2 Spectral Spiders. It would come at the cost of the 4 damage it would take to attack into the Spectral Knight. That is one good option that he has. Unfortunately, it's still, he won't have the initiative. It won't let him take back the initiative. Really, he will have a slightly larger board at the end of the turn, but his opponent just has resources for days with a second Ancient Allure in hand.
Yeah, Strifecro doesn't know how bad it's about to get, unfortunately. And Force of Nature, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, is looking a little bit appealing right now, actually.
If he had 1 more mana, I think he would probably do it that way. Instead, maybe he's just going to end up hoping to play for even a better swipe turn than the one he already has. This is also another option that he has, and what this will do is make it so that his swipe or his Force of Nature might actually let him turn the tide on a subsequent turn.
Right. Well, it gets rid of one of the Ancient of Lores at least, but should be another one coming down this turn, probably from Stunner. Keeper of the Grove there as well. Nice card to have in hand, but yeah, getting the chance to put another 5/5 down and draw 2 more cards, that's just such a big swing to the advantage of Stunner that it's hard to pass up. He's going to go ahead and go for the Spectral Knight, though, maybe.
He may even play his other Savage Roar, and it will mean both of his Savage Roars are gone, and he does do it, but he gets to completely clear out his opponent's board, still maintain that initiative, which has clearly been very important to him to have, and so he does get to hold on to it, and his opponent actually doesn't have a great response right now, so there's an Innervate, and the Innervate sometimes lets you make really big swinging plays, But unless he gets something awesome off of Azure Drake, I'm not sure what he's going to do with it.
Yeah, I think you have to take this threat very seriously. Although you aren't worried about combo anymore, right? At least the full combo.
Right.
You use both Savage Roars, so Strifecro can feel a little more liberal with how he deals with it, right? And it's important to note that both the Savage Roars are played, so it's not even like he used 2 Force of Natures and you have to account for the board state. So perhaps he can play a little bit more liberal with his health total here.
One thing he could do, now he hasn't had the initiative all game, and he still won't, but he could use his Force of Nature to kill the Spectral Knight because it is such a problem. That would let him just hero power, take out one of the 1/1s, and wait until next turn to do something like Azure Drake plus swipe in the same turn.
Yeah, looks like that's what he's going with, and that really is kind of his strongest play. I mean, it feels awkward, but at this point in Druid versus Druid, when you've got the hand that Strifecro has, you kind of have to play it this way.
Well, now you have the opportunity to draw Ancient of Lore #2, and just look again how the resource battle would have been completely opposite way if it wasn't the case.
Oh, Cenarius off the top of the deck, though.
How about that?
Presenting a very powerful immediate option.
Now, here's the thing is, Strifecro has enough mana to play Azure Drake into swipe, so he can clear everything but Cenarius if he wants to, which wouldn't be too bad, but we'll see if he maybe wants to go into something different.
Well, I don't know what other choice he's going to have if he leaves all those minions up. Even though he knows there's no threat of Savage Roar, that's still a lot of damage when you're only at 15. That's a lot of minions to be dealing with.
Yeah, I definitely think you need to remove this. And there's the Keeper of the Grove, but not something that you can really play this turn along with that swipe. So if you swipe, you leave a 5/3 on the board, and that's it. So at least, you know, then it would be something that trades with your Azure Drake. I think that was a pretty decent turn for Strifecro, actually.
It is a pretty decent turn,
Not
but
too bad.
it plays right into the Ancient of Lore of Stunner.
Yeah,
Stunner with the Ancient of Lore, he's basically, Strifecro is forced into a resource war at this point, and as far as we can tell, it's one that Stunner's winning. Strifecro doing everything he can to stay in it, but advantage Stunner.
Well, Stunner's, in fact, 2 damage off lethal at the moment.
Yeah, he's getting really close.
He's very close. So if he just pushes slightly. Oh, wow.
Oh, that is bold, man. He can trade right now, use that hero power.
I mean, it's again, like we said, he's keeping account for the fact that he's very close to ending the game, and he's going to have the damage necessary, assuming his board's intact.
Smart. He doesn't want to get hit with any. He doesn't know if Strifecro has 2 swipes in his hand. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to easily clear this if he draws into it. So, yeah, good play.
None of these cards do a single thing defensively. Strifecro may or may not see it yet, but the writing is a bit on the wall. He knows there's at least 11 damage he can't stop, and we know, of course, that Stunner does have the Force of Nature, so it's going to be Game 2 to Stunner. As I don't want to say it, he could miss it, but I would have to imagine that this is going to end up being a game.
All he needs to do is play 1 card, but
well, the play he made last turn heavily implies he knows he has lethal at the moment. He's basically saying, I don't need any other cards. I'm just pushing for what I have and going for it. Now, I don't really see a way for Strifecro to even consider that he's staying alive much at this point, but even if he didn't, his best course of action is just to drop minions and hope for the best.
Yeah, pretty much. Can't argue with that. So Spectral Knight, and we'll see what else he decides to play. Probably the Eddie. Yeah, but we know already that this is going to be game number 2 going over to Stunner. He's going to be able to tie up the series. All he needs to do is play Force of Nature. That's it.
You can see Stunner nodding as he sees the minions come down on the opposite side of the board.
Yep. Another Keeper of the Grove. Why not? Oh, okay.
A little bit of flair.
DM. I don't know about that.
Stunner was probably listening to me talk about other matches, like, why aren't these players taking opportunities to show off their cards?
Taking some advice, huh?
All right.
Sure. Well, he took it, and he will take game 2 as well. Tied up series, Strifecro versus Stunner. Druid versus Druid, and Stunner takes down one of the kings of Druid in this.
He does. Takes him down. A 6 out of 10 BM at the end.
Yeah. Still a little sequence error. He needed to 2 damage to yourself. Yep. Say that was a mistake, a natural mistake, and then go for the kill.
Right. So 6 out of 10. Yeah. 6 out of 10. Not bad, but
Web Spinner Mad Scientist. Wonder if he's going to pick up Undertaker and make a trio complete.
He's got a really good starting out hand. Yeah, I mean, Undertaker would really kind of put the icing on the cake for this one. He doesn't get it, but still, Leperno, not bad to have early on either.
I feel like I've seen almost every Druid game some person have Wild Growth to start things off. This is getting quite ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you've got 30 cards, so out of that, 2 out of your 30 cards are that, and you draw, if with the coin, quite a few, and I mean, even without the coin, you're going up to 4, so it's a pretty good chance that you draw one of your 2 ofs in most starting hands in Hearthstone.
A lot of these ramp decks that we see that have the Wild Growth, as soon as they put Wild Growth in their deck, they take Haunted Creeper out. If he does go ahead and play double Leper Gnome here, that is a really threatening first turn. But if you're going to have a minion that can help deal with those one attack or those one health guys, Haunted Creeper would be it. So having Haunted Creeper in the deck and having it in his opening hand ready to go could be a big help for Stunner here.
That's right. A blessing in disguise where you normally are like, oh, well, I want Wild Growth for sure. But against those aggressive decks, like you said, is there time to play it a lot of the times? Because say there's another threat that comes up and he picks up like Shaded Axe Ram or something. Does he prefer to drop that instead of play Wild Growth?
All right.
It's a tricky turn because, I mean, if you play this, then you guarantee that each of those Leper Gnomes is doing a minimum of 4 damage if Strifecro decides to go with the face.
Yeah, he will.
And, even if you Hero Power and run into one of them, you're limiting one to just 4 damage maximum. But then the other one may be able to get more because there's no more minions. So it's a tough situation. Strifecro, we'll see what he decides to do. But I wouldn't bother with this Haunted Creeper, man. I would just go to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super unlikely that he would attack the Haunted Creeper.
Yeah.
He's going to let his opponent do the work for him. And it really is going to be a bit of a race, especially the hand that Strifecro has.
Yep, and so now those Leper Gnomes starting to get poked away at possibly by the Haunted Creeper. And he's thinking about possibly clearing out both Leper Gnomes, I suppose. And you might as well get rid of him. Again, this is a way to reduce it or kind of restrict it to the least amount of damage you're going to take. So not too bad, though. Out of those 2 Leper Gnomes, one did 4 and the other did 6. That's 10 damage for 2 mana.
It is not bad. It has also restricted the Druid's mana quite a bit. Of course, he's still holding that Wild Growth, which is such a big deal for the Druid deck, but he hasn't even been able to play it. So
it looks like he won't be able to. Next turn will be dedicated to responding to how his opponent plays. Not to mention the turn after that, he's most likely playing Druid the Claw to some degree, whether he wants to be aggressive or defensive about it.
Yeah, that's the trick, is that you don't really get a chance to play that Wild Growth sometimes if you need to keep responding to whatever your opponent throws out on the board. So I'm guessing we're going to see tracking first just to see if Strifecro can pick up anything useful at this point. But
he might play the tracking, he might not. If he wants to play the Web Spinner this turn, he may not want to give up the opportunity cost of his hero power, and he might hold on to the tracking for later. But you're right, he does decide that his plays this turn are not good enough to just go for, and so he's going to have to decide which of these 3 cards he wants to pick up.
That's a tough one, too. I mean, he could take the Web Spinner and have double Web Spinner this turn, but Loatheb is really hard to give up. Houndmaster, I think, probably the least likely out of those 3 to go with. And he's going to go for Web Spinner. He wants to keep the early momentum going, and with the way things have been happening the first few turns, I really can't disagree with that.
Yep, and they do turn into random beasts.
Yeah.
So even though he's only taking a 1 mana card and it doesn't look like his hand is very big, each of those Web Spinners, of course, is going to become a new beast. So
King Crush hype?
Yep.
King
Captain's
Crush
Parrot
hype, it could
hype.
be. Captain's
D2.
Parrot. Yeah, I don't think he's running. Yeah, D2's the one running the.
If he gets Captain's Parrot,
skin,
D2 is going to be like somewhere in the venue being like, yep, I told you.
Do we
So,
silence something here or do we kill?
Looks like he's going for silence, not wanting to deal with that trap right now.
The traps are sometimes very good against Druid, especially if you don't have anything like a Haunted Creeper left to deal with the trap. So he decides to just silence, get rid of it. It does leave both Web Spinners in play, but no great play really for the Hunter to make this turn. So he may
probably
have to just Hero Power.
Yeah, Loot Hoarder Hero Power maybe, just to get that cycled and then a couple damage to face, and that's about it. I mean, he still does have the initiative here. He's still got the he's still dictating the tempo of this, but it could fall off. It could fall off. It's not looking too bad for him though.
Well, the double Druid of the Claw in his opponent's hand is going to put a stop to his aggression in a hurry. So
that's going to make it difficult.
It will make it difficult. As far as we know, if a Druid does come down in taunt, he will be able to deal with it, at least the first one. The second one, he might only just be able to play that high main as a response.
Which is still decent considering that your opponent already used the silence on the Mad Scientist, so that way he might have to deal with the 2/2s.
The Innervate could actually be a really big deal here. If he ends up... Well, I guess it partly depends on what beasts come off of the Web Spinners themselves, but right now, those are the beasts in play that would activate a kill command and let it kill the Druid of the Claw. So,
well, you could
we'll
kill
have to see how he
plays really
plays
easily
it out here. There's more than one way he could play this turn, and how he plays it does affect what's going to happen for Strifecro.
Yeah, I would imagine we're going to see him follow up that taunt with running one of the running the Keeper into the Web Spinner and maybe Innervate Hero powering the other one.
Does he want to kill off the two damage Loot Hoarder?
Looks like he'd just rather get rid of the potential for kill command, and I think that is the right way to go.
This is really smart. So
we know from seeing Strifecro's hand too, that was absolutely the right play for Stunner.
All right, Oasis Snapjaw.
and
Stone
does
does
Boar.
Boar.
Actually
Wow.
lets him take it out pretty efficiently, and
Yeah.
he even gets to play a flare this turn. So it would have been even better for Strifecro if he could have kept one in play, because he would have been able to hero power or something like that also for this turn. As it stands, he isn't going to get to have as good of a turn as he would have had otherwise, but he still does get to take out the Druid more efficiently than otherwise.
Yeah, it's not as efficient, but it's still not a bad turn. I'd be happy with that draw. And who knows? You know, we'll see what he gets from the flare too.
Yeah, he's trying to plan it out right now. He also could play the Snapjaw this turn.
Yeah.
But he is going to have to deal with that Druid eventually, and I would imagine he's likely to try and just get rid of it this turn and try to not have to deal with it later.
Well, I think now is the turn that's probably going to be the best time to do it, because if you don't do it now, you know, then more stuff comes down. It's harder to make those decisions.
It's true.
Yeah, we'll probably see him get rid of it.
Okay, we'll see if he flares off and draws on the top of his deck.
Mad Scientist is a pretty good draw, but it's not something that he can play this turn, so it actually won't have an impact until later in the game.
Or might even be the next, it won't even be dropped next turn unless it's a situation where he needs to, because high main is the preference here for the Hunter player.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Force of Nature. Okay, something to be saved for later when he draws into that combo could be quite good. Do you think we're going to see him play the Druid of the Claw? No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like he's going to play that Chillwind Yeti. Not a lot of threats on the board, so deciding to save that.
Getting the Wild Growth out now is an interesting line of play. It, of course, does unlock more mana sooner.
Oh, boy.
One of the things you do need to do when you're playing Druid against these aggressive decks is try to do two things in one turn. Innervate is one of the cards that lets you do that, and of course surviving long enough is another way to do it. So he's trying to use the Wild Growth to get as much mana as soon as possible.
It's interesting because he would be going into a 7-mana turn anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he would have drawn into an Ancient of Lore, he already would have had the mana. So, you know, curve-wise, the next turn, he's not really going to get a lot of benefit from that Wild Growth, but getting to 10 mana a little bit quicker might come in handy. It's hard to say.
Or getting to 9 sooner and playing
Yeah, well, now with
Scenarios
that
is also
Scenarios
pretty
draw.
good.
That's true. Yeah.
We actually can deal with this high main pretty effectively and still have a 4/3 creature on board. I feel like that might be one of his better courses of action. He also can play defensively and try to push, but at the same time, you're not in a position where you feel like we feel like you can get a lot out of that, I think, because your opponent can respond pretty easily with like Unleash the Hounds and
Well, with
Hunter's
Force of
Mark.
Nature, he can clear out everything out of the Savannah High Main if he wants to.
yes.
And it looks like that's going to be the order of business. All right.
Even gains a life this turn.
Yeah.
So trying to find a little bit of
Pretty
breathing room.
valuable.
That's a 6-mana card for a 6-mana card, and being able to deal with the Death Rattle too, you know, with some of the health on your other minions is a pretty good trade.
Well, Houndmaster is an interesting one.
Yeah, it
If
doesn't-
he decides to wait until next turn, he could even end up with a 4/9 taunt. And
Man. Then his opponent has Black Knight.
if your opponent
Oh,
has Black
man.
Knight, that is a 9 damage Black Knight. But,
wow.
but he hasn't drawn it yet. So if you're Strifecro,
Right.
do you try to bank on that giant taunt to help you win the game, or do you avoid ever having just a giant taunt without having attacking it with something first?
You know, I feel like this turn I'd be really tempted to go for Animal Companion, see what you get, and then decide from there. You know, I mean, you could have a good target for Houndmaster from the Animal Companion as well. And if you don't, then just play Oasis Snapjaw and just leave 2 decent minions out on the board.
That's true. And it is a little bit unfortunate, though, that this Mad Scientist is sitting here. The longer it stays in his hand, the less good it will be. It is the type of minion that you want to play as soon as possible. Usually turn 1 and 2 is the ideal for that guy. But his beast minions that he has are so powerful, you might not have any option but just leave it sitting there for longer.
He's going to go with the Savannah High Main, but
Okay.
I was thinking, you know, honestly, Animal Companion into Mad Scientist and Hero Power too wouldn't have been a bad turn, but he wants to give his opponent a hard time dealing with it. He saw him use Force of Nature last turn just to get rid of this, so he knows his opponent's worried about it. But here comes Scenarius.
Yeah, and even just these little taunt guys are going to be a bit of a problem. Unfortunately, he can't leverage them to race with. His opponent is at 29. He is going to start to get damage in there, but he's even played Force of Nature. He doesn't have any of pieces of the combo in his hand, so he has very slow minions. Well, at least the Spectral Knights are very slow. He keeps mousing over them. He realizes they're not what he's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, next turn he could do something like Druid of the Claw, Spectral Knight as well. A little bit of utility in that play, but we'll see what the response is for Strifecro.
Is it time to go gambling, Reels? Pack up your bags for Vegas?
Man, I would be tempted, and it's not just because I know that Black Knight isn't in his hand.
Yeah. I don't know if I can roll that with those dice. It's too heavy. If you get Black Knighted on your Oasis Snapjaw,
I have a lot of audacity sometimes, and this is a very tense matchup. You're not ahead by any stretch of the imagination, and if you feel that that is the best way to win the game moving forward against unknown cards, sometimes you can be willing to play where you don't even play around something like Black Knight.
Oh, boy.
And if Strifecro decides to do it, then it would probably be correct. If he doesn't do it, then I was probably wrong. And not banking on the 4/9 taunt is correct. So he feels he can win without needing it. And what does he end up getting? He does get a 4/4 taunt. So
Okay.
now he's going to probably just taunt up. Oh, no, he is just going to play the Snapjaw. So he's not going to play the taunt yet. And he's likely to have a beast survive at least long enough to get it. So it's not like he's going to strand his Houndmaster forever.
And this tests for Black Knight, by the way.
It does. If there were a Black Knight, it would almost certainly hit this 4/4 taunt. So you would prefer that no minion get Black Knighted.
Right.
You still would prefer that they not have it at all. But if they're going to, this is a good time for it to sort of happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Also a time to test for Kodo. It's
Yeah,
like you
I suppose
Kodo
that's true too,
Kodo
yeah.
the Oasis Snapjaw, you're like, oh my god, you're not supposed to run down your Druid deck.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we've seen the Kodo and the Druid deck. Yeah, I think I'd be pretty shocked with that one.
being
I mean,
facetious.
we've seen double Doomhammer this weekend, though, so you really never know. But yeah, probably not.
Kodo's the type of card that definitely can come in and out of the metagame.
It
I've
is,
seen
it
it
is.
even in Druid before.
Like, there's a few cards, like Big Game Hunter, Kodo, Harrison Jones. These are all cards that, like, go in and out of the meta as decks change, and you're always going to see them every few months, you know?
I do like those type of cards, the ones that do go in and out. That means that they're good enough when the meta is good enough for them to be run, and they're not good enough that you want to run them all the time. So,
Yeah. They're like seasonal workers.
seasonal. Well, 2 5-mana spells is a lot of power added onto the board.
Do you think he wants to kill off this Oasis Snapjaw immediately and trade the 2/2?
Well, it looks
I
like he
guess
is.
so, yeah.
So now it didn't survive. It didn't survive long enough to pick up the Houndmaster buff, so he only has one target for it. And now it is actually a really tough choice deciding how he wants to go about this. He can, of course, clear out the Druid of the Claw no matter what, but there will be 2 minions remaining no matter what.
He can also taunt out one of these hyenas as well, too, to get a 4/4 taunt out of it. So, I mean, he can still build an okay board, and that would also leave him room, too, to play down Freezing Trap and a Mad Scientist. So he could have potential to, you know, get his trap kind of block out of his deck, rolling a little bit more with this.
I wonder how worried he is about a second Silence, because using the Houndmaster actually on even just the Savannah High Main could make it so that the High Main will get to do 2 things. He might even be willing to let the High Main get killed by a Hero Power, but if only the High Main had 1 more health, then I think he would do it for sure. As it stands, it's a little more scary, just because the Hero Power can take it out.
That's true. He's actually going to go with Sludge Belcher, and he can still afford the taunt. Or is he going to go with, like, Mad Scientist, Freezing Trap, Hero Power? There's a couple ways he can play it out, but I think you're right here. Okay, so he is going to go ahead and taunt out one of the hyenas.
Yep,
Or the hyenas. No, he's not, actually. Okay.
Yeah, Mad Scientist, Freezing Trap again. The sooner you get the Mad Scientist out, the better.
The sooner. It's turn 9.
Yeah, well,
not a normal
better
turn
late
for
than never,
that.
right? I mean,
I suppose
again,
so.
Well, Sludge Belcher's going to do quite a bit of work here, and all of the rest of his minions, as far as we can tell, will be protected unless he's willing to use that Savage Roar. It's not a threat to end the game with the Hunter at 25 life, but it is a point where Stunner, if he can survive, his minions are a little bit stronger than his opponents, and he could end up with a situation where he can catch back up, but maybe not. That Freezing Trap is actually a big problem. So.
And, I mean, he knows if Cenarius got bounced, he just wouldn't get to play it for the rest of the game unless he was able to innervate that, I suppose. But it's tough to kind of hope for that.
You can't, you're right, but you can't innervate past 10 mana. I learned that the hard way. I was like, oh yeah,
I suppose you can. Yeah, that's true.
I was like, I was playing like Super Ram Druid back in the day, and like Savitz was playing Alexstrasza, and I was like, oh, this is a cool Druid deck. And then I tried like using Alexstrasza, but then I get Frozen Trap, and I was like, oh my god, I can't actually innervate for it.
Huh, that's true.
Yep, 10 mana, the Kappa.
The hard Kappa.
All right. Well, he's got a few options here. Cairn Bloodhoof. I mean, you might as well. There's not going to be a lot of other turns to go for this.
This is scary, though, because now if there's second Freezing Trap that comes out this Mad Scientist, you've just lost 6 mana.
If it is Freezing Trap number 2, that's actually a huge problem now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he can kill Cenarius off pretty easily. That's huge, actually.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I would say so. Well, he's probably going to flare to see what he draws first. Both of these players probably getting pretty low on their cards. This is actually one of the longest Hunter Druid decks I think I've ever seen. This has been...
It's on the longer side for sure.
It is, yeah. It's actually on the longer side for games we've seen this weekend, which is interesting because we've seen so much aggressiveness, so much...
If he gets kill command number 2 off of Flare, does he actually just kill him outright?
He's got 7, 9, 14.
He
and
needs
then
to do
Houndmaster
17.
is
11
8,
plus...
16?
No, he'd be 1 short.
Goes for the trap instead.
It is Freezing Trap number 2, and that's bad news for Mr. Cairn. Or Mr. Banehoof, if I want to be more formal.
Mr. Banehoof. That's
Sure.
true.
Or, sorry,
Mr. Bloodhoof. It's Bane Bloodhoof.
Now Black
This
Knight
is why I'm
could
not allowed
not
to
come
comment
sooner.
more progress stuff.
Black Knight going to be a really important draw at this point.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good chance to draw it, too. He doesn't have a whole lot of cards left in his deck.
He could draw Firebat's favorite card. He could get a Stone Tusk Boar to break the Freezing Trap. That would be nice. Oh, and it is a Black Knight.
That is it. Yeah, you had a good chance to draw it. We are at that point in the game where there's just not a lot of options for your card draw yet.
He doesn't necessarily win,
Right.
but it was what he needed.
Yep.
And he also still has to not attack with this Cairn, as tempting as it is.
If only he had Sun Fury Protector.
Wait,
he could
hold
Sun
on.
Fury Protector here.
There's 9 damage represented right there. He has to hero power
Yep.
and then not do anything. And leave it up to the 1 damage that Hunter can get. There's a lot. Eagle Horn Bow, Unleash the Hounds, Kill Command, second. If he just walks up and breathes on the monitor of Stunner, Strifecro's gonna win.
Over.
He's just gonna he just knocks on his mouse or keyboard and things are gonna fall over and die.
1 health in an RPG game type of thing. Please don't breathe
absolutely.
on me. Please don't breathe
Just
on
don't trip over a rock.
I mean, you kind of have to run Cairn into this Houndmaster.
You can't, though.
It's so hard from Strifecro's perspective, though. It just looks so bad if you leave that up.
Right. Or even worse, what if it's Snake Trap, and then it's like you incur the wrath of your opponent? Well, now he knows it's Snake Trap.
You know it's
or sorry, not
Frozen
Snake Trap.
Yeah. Should know. You should have a pretty good idea.
That would not have triggered snakes attacking the face.
Right. So that's why now he knows it's not.
Well, it's Snake or Freeze.
Okay. Well, it's not the 1 damage that Strifecro needed.
Is it the Haunted Creeper he deserved? That's,
well played, sir.
Wow.
Well played, sir.
Thank you.
I think he deserves a Haunted Creeper once in a while. Strifecro has been running pretty well so far.
Oh, look
in
at
terms of
that.
his draws.
Gets him down to 1 life
1 damage
left.
off lethal.
He's got Savage Roar in his hand. If he draws a Force of Nature,
No, that's going to do it.
I think so,
I
yeah.
don't see a way for him to get out of the situation. Too many cards that just don't do anything.
Can't clear the board. That is it. And Stunner, well, he's about to concede, but
he was going to concede it. He wants to double check. He knows
No,
the
you
writing's
gotta,
on the wall.
That is it.
No attack
Strifecro.
into the opponent's Houndmaster or anything like that, but I can respect it. Stunner drops game 3, which means Strifecro is 1 game away from going to BlizzCon.
Yeah, a situation a lot of people had expected him to be in, but it's not over yet. We've seen so many comebacks this weekend. Stunner has one last deck. It is a Priest. It's a pretty decent choice against Hunter overall, actually. So I think we've got a really good chance to see game 5 here.
I think so. You know, Priest does stand a start.
I think so. We'll see what he draws.
Well,
I kind of like that other hand better in a few ways.
Well, Strife threw away everything as well, fishing for a 1-drop. He didn't end up finding one. Most of these Hunter decks run 6 of them.
Yep.
So he didn't end up finding one. Instead, he found a tracking that he gets to use instead. He does at least have a Mad Scientist ready to go. So it's not all negative, but even though the Priest doesn't have an amazing hand as far as it looks, it actually is not bad, and it might line up very well against what Strifecro's doing.
That's true. You know, Shadow Madness is really valuable against a card like Houndmaster because whatever that buffs up early game, you often can just use completely on Shadow Madness and even collect value by killing your Houndmaster and getting the death rattle effects on your side.
Yeah.
It might line up really well for Stunner.
Yeah, without a doubt, Haunted Creeper and Shadow Madness into the Houndmaster is a big problem for the Hunter. So if that's what ends up happening, if he lets that happen, knowing that he can do that, that would be a big deal.
Looks like the Mad Scientist will be the first play for Strifecro. He did keep the Leper Gnome out of the tracking. This Mad Scientist hopefully is going to get him one of those freezing traps early on. We'll see. And coining possibly into the, oh, interesting, into the Thought Steal or into the
I was
Dark
seeing
Cultist.
Dark Cultist. Coin Thought Steal is
Yeah, that's right. Well, you want to have that
very
big
optimistic
turn
of what you
for-
get.
They could put the fear into their hearts.
Absolutely.
When you're ready to coin Thought
Because you
Steal.
get Flare.
Like his
and
hand
then-
is that good.
Well, Undertaker's out now. It's not as good as it would have been on turn 1, not nearly.
Yeah, for sure. It's too bad he doesn't have another one drop with Death Rattle. Otherwise, it could be pretty decent. Right now, you know, even if he plays, you know, one of his 2 Death Rattles after the Leper Gnome, it's or after the Undertaker, it's still pretty vulnerable to the Dark Cultist.
He may be thinking that it's okay for the Undertaker to die though, and in truth, it really is, because even if the Dark Cultist survives, even if it gets healed up, any of those things, he's thinking, okay, Houndmaster is going to come down on the Beast, and that's going to be a really big play.
Oh, speaking of big plays.
He doesn't know that his opponent has Shadow Madness, so.
Yeah, and Cabal Shadow Priest now too, so Stunner pretty ready to take control of this game next turn and kind of going forward too.
Yep, and he has to decide now if he wants to heal up or play the Thought Steal. This is a bit tougher of a choice. He can heal up his Dark Cultist, which is the most likely play, or he can play the Thought Steal. You could also make an argument for.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a lot of good turns to Thought Steal, and this is kind of one of those opportunities, but I do kind of like healing the Dark Cultist instead, too, because making that minion last so long, you need to control the board, and with Thought Steal, you're taking a little bit of risk. You might not get anything that's useful for that, where Dark Cultist is right there. He's already out.
Freezing Trap off of the top when he has a Mad Scientist in play is not what he wants to see.
Yeah, it's kind of a dead draw.
I don't know what his other traps are, but if he is playing something like a Snake or an Explosive Trap, he would have much preferred having a better chance at the freezing. So he probably still has one left in there, but maybe not two. So, well, certainly not 2. He just drew 1. So.
It was an interesting choice for Strifecro too, because you know he can do something like play that freezing trap in hero power, but he wants to get that Leper Gnome down at some point. He does have the option, I suppose, of kill commanding this Dark Cultist and then playing Leper Gnome. He'd have 3 minions on the board. He'd get rid of that Dark Cultist that was just healed last turn, so it kind of negates that mana that was spent a little bit too. And it feels uncomfortable to use a kill command this early, but the board that he would establish out of it, you know, barring any Shadow Madnesses and things like that coming in, seems pretty strong from Strifecro's perspective.
It is definitely an option.
I think the Houndmaster, though, is your best option because it does put a 4-tech creature. But then how much do you play around Shadow Madness? Do you play around Shadow Madness at all? And he doesn't, so
he doesn't.
This is going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's that now Shadow Madness, it does a lot of damage because that Haunted Creeper can run into the Houndmaster, and then you actually get the Spectral Spiders from it, too.
You do? And that's about as good as it gets. He's even going to be able to take out the Mad Scientist and have 2 Spectral Spiders in play to trigger whatever trap comes from him.
Yeah, this is like the perfect turn. And so, that Mad Scientist, yeah, why not? You know, go ahead and take it out.
You know, what's so important about this development is that Stunner also has 1/1 tokens to pop whatever trap it is. So I'm assuming he's going to be taking out this Mad Scientist.
Oh yeah, I would have been really surprised if he would have let that go. I mean, the opportunity with these Spectral Spiders is just way too good to pass up.
And now Strifecro really just doesn't have much going. His board got basically completely, it was very strong, but it got completely dissected by the Shadow Madness.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens in this Priest versus Hunter matchup sometimes. And okay, he does go ahead and draw into a Web Spinner with the Flare. So, you know, at least he has something to play this turn. That might gain him a little bit of an edge, but oh, are we actually going? Okay, we're not going into turn 6 just yet. I was worried for a second that Cabal Shadow Priest was going to come out, but we've got another turn before that.
Well, even just a Sludge Belcher at this point, as far as we know, he's not going to have a Beast ready to go. He might get an inexpensive one to play on the Web Spinner, but an inexpensive Beast is not going to be able to win him the game when he has to play an inexpensive Beast and kill command the Sludge Belcher with some of his last cards.
You know, he could also go ahead and go Northshire Cleric, Injured Blade Master, and then Circle of Healing too, and get that big 4/7 Blade Master. Looks like he will go for the Sludge Belcher as well, deciding he's got enough cards in his hand, and I really can't argue with that.
Yeah, River Crockle is not what you need. I think Strifecro would have loved to see another card, something powerful like his event.
The Beast.
The Beast.
Maybe not. That's what I always get from Web Spinner. I don't know. I've gotten the Beast so many times from that card. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, just get the Tundra Rhino with the other web spinner and you're good to go.
Yeah, Beast plus charge. Nice.
6 mana core Hound.
Yep, there you go. And so, now that's a tough build. That's a really, really hard board for Strifecro to deal with.
If you were to look just at the health totals this game, you'd be, 30 to 19, totally winning. Totally not winning.
Hunter's hero power got him on a 10-turn clock.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many games, too, when you play a more aggressive deck like this where you get them down to like 10 health and you're still at 30, but then you know you've already lost. You're like, all right, he's got that board established. I know my deck. It's really hard to draw into anything that can change that, and this might be one of those situations for Strifecro, too, where he did get him down, sub 20, but from here on out, it's just going to be so hard to retake that advantage.
Yep. And now he can even do the play that you were talking about last turn, where he can use the Circle of Healing to heal up both of these minions to really high health, and he can even heal himself if he wants to on top of it. Now, if he ends up deciding to attack with a Sludge Belcher, he'll regret it because that is a freezing trap. But he can even just let the Dark Cultist go. If he were to do the Circle of Healing play, he would have wanted to do it before.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see. Maybe he was hoping it was Explosive Trap, too, possibly. I mean, it's rare. You don't see that. But if it was, it's more, I suppose.
So he can still do it. He'll only draw one card, but his hand is quite full at this point.
I was just going to wait.
Instead, he's just going to heal himself up, and that's fine, too. The 4-3 is still pretty good. Even if his opponent does do something like Kill Command it, he knows he's not dying at 21 health with a Sludge Belcher in play.
Oh, of course,
Yeah, most likely not. Now, Strifecro needs to pick up some pretty heavy-hitting cards. Savannah Hyman, I feel like, would be the opportunity to come back.
Well, Lothab, not too bad to see, really.
Yeah, not too shabby. Priest is very spell-dependent. A lot of their cards operate off of comboing with spells and on top of minions.
I mean, he can also do something like, this is all seeming desperate now from his perspective, but he can always do Crocolisk into Kill Command and then hit it with the bow, and he could clear that Sludge Belcher completely. Just nothing really looks too appealing, though, for Strifecro this game, I should say, too.
Yeah. I mean, you can always squeeze in that next turn if things go all right.
You hope so,
but now you have the opportunity to play Lothar. Things go awry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Things go badly. All right. So, Cabal Shadow Priest, not too helpful right now. And he's got so many cards in his hand, too. It's kind of a little bit risky to go for the Northshire Cleric as well. You really don't need any of that right now.
Yeah, but now the Dark Cultist and the Spectral Spider don't feel left out anymore. Before, they were the only red cards in hand.
That is true.
All the spells are joining them.
Maybe it's time to just play those, play the minions that got freezing trapped.
Now it's a very well diversified hand.
True.
Yeah. A lot of red cards. Strife's got the blue on his jacket. A little bit of red versus blue action.
Well, Dark Cultist seems like a pretty solid play now. I mean, it's just one of those turns that's kind of lackluster in general, so you might as well spend that a little bit more expensive 3-4. And yeah, heal yourself. Just stay safe.
He's willing to just completely trade.
Wow.
Well, I mean, Strifecro has so few cards in his hand that you really can't argue about that too much. And Sludge Belcher drawn for Strifecro, but he needs something aggressive, and the Sludge Belcher is not that. It's going to be annoying to get through, but it doesn't really get him anywhere for priest damage.
I feel like that's probably the second best option, though, behind High Main that he could have asked for, though. Other than maybe like a Houndmaster.
Well, I think that kind of shows just what a tough situation Strifecro is in, is that neither
doubt.
of those draws are really all that useful here.
Yeah, really that Shadow Madness just had a huge swinging impact on the game.
Yeah.
Stunner playing with the Shadow Madness in his deck. Some decks don't run it. Most of them have at least one. I think one of the players we saw today had two, and I don't remember if that was Stunner or not.
I think if you're on the ladder, you should run two. If you're at a tournament, probably one is good.
Unless everyone's playing two.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're running Zoo, then, I mean, there's a couple cards that have 4 attack or more, but I still think Shadow Madness is pretty good. Oh, you mean run two in a tournament? No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tricky because also you can't drop River Crocolisk because it's a liability against Cabal Shadow Priest, which most likely your opponent has by now. So Strifecro feels like 2 cards in his hand are sitting there for a long time until he picks up cards that are necessary to combine it, or he's in a desperate situation where he needs to kill command to get himself out of the situation.
Just kind of has to hero power every turn. And then, that at least would make Stunner feel obligated to hero power himself as well. But, he's got enough mana, though, that he can do that every turn and still continue to play creatures and increase his board presence, too.
He does have an overwhelming card advantage at this point.
He's not hurting for cards.
But There is a lot of mana choked into his hand.
Yeah, the Dark Cultist abandoned the Spectral Spider.
Yeah, Spectral Spider on his own now. So the question is, it looks like I would imagine he'll use this to trade with the Sludge Belcher and get it down to that 1-2 taunt.
Yep.
Give himself something to possibly Cabal Shadow Priest next turn. It may be dead, but we'll see.
All right. Well, he's also playing around Unleash the Hounds. Like, he's kept his Northshire Cleric and making sure that doesn't really need to. Otherwise, it's just pressure on the board.
That's true.
But there's no need to necessarily pressure and add an unnecessary body count for Unleash.
Well, Savannah Highmane, I mean, so he can play that and kill command as well, too. So he can get rid of the, he can board clear, right? Like you said, the Dark Cultist down to 1 health as well.
But there's a perfect response to Priest. Shadow Word Death, and to Holy Nova. It's like no matter what Strifecro does, Priest is the Grand Master here, or sorry, not the Grand, the Sensei, just smacking down whatever punch is coming.
He could steal one of the hounds, one of the hyenas as well.
Yeah,
true. Could Cabal Shadow
Priest, that's another option.
I'd kind of like that a little bit better than Holy Nova, in fact, because you just leave him 1-2-2 and you'd establish your board even more. Because he's going to probably lose everything this time around, so he's going to need to kind of make that swing again.
Strife is trying very hard to figure out a way to maneuver himself into a win this game.
If anyone can figure it out, he certainly can.
Yeah, this is a difficult puzzle to solve. The great majority of us may even think that it looks impossible, but if anyone's going to find a way, it is Strifecro.
Yeah. You may. I mean, okay, so it's just going to go ahead and use that hero power and trade. And here's actually an interesting thing is look at how much health he just gave that Akanai Soul Priest. I think this is a great idea. His best chance to win is deny his opponent the ability to heal himself. That's what he's doing right now.
Absolutely true. His opponent is at 14. He theoretically even has 12 damage next turn.
Even if he runs into this Savannah Highmane, he still won't be able to get rid of it for another turn. That's pretty smart.
It is pretty smart. I think, he played 1 kill command earlier in the game, or did he not?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
I don't think he did, yeah. I think he still has both of them. I could be wrong, but we'll see.
So that might be a
Shadow
way
Word Death.
He might just actually kill it with his hero power.
I thought he wanted to steal it with Sylvanas, like a 6/5 working on your side, but he chose not to.
Well, one thing he could do as well is he could... Okay, he's going to circle now. He could have... he also could hero power the Highmane and then circle.
Yeah, in fact, I'm a little bit surprised that... Oh, he wants to steal one with Cabal Shadow Priest. That must be why.
Sure.
Otherwise, you would definitely hero power first.
All right, well, so he found a way to get rid of his own guy.
Oh, okay.
And
sure, okay.
He could have used the Cabal.
It works. I mean, whatever happens, he's still sitting in a pretty good position.
This is the more defensive play, and right now he's just trying to make sure he doesn't accidentally just die.
Well, it's kind of cool too because he's saying, all right, Northshire Cleric is out. You only have 1 charge left on your bow, so go ahead and use it. You know.
Yep.
All right, Leper Gnome and
Leper Gnome's not useful just because that will get taken by Cabal Shadow Priest. In fact, both minions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Strifecro can't play those right now. Otherwise, he knows they're just going to be stolen away immediately. So it's kind of hero power pass unless he wants to try to maybe use a kill command on the Northshire Cleric. But that's not fun either. That's not a good play. It's not looking good for Strifecro here in game number 4. I've got a feeling we're going to see game 5 here.
We might see a game 5 in this series. It's looking increasingly more likely every turn that passes. The Hunter, this is like turn 10 right now. Usually you want to have your opponent dead by then, if not long before then. So the longer the Priest sticks in the game, the more tools they're going to have to stop what the Hunter's trying to do.
Yep, sure enough. And so now waiting for Strifecro to make his decision, and I think this is going to be it. Just hero power. It's a tough one.
It might even be just hero power pass.
Yeah.
It feels not that great to not play what you can out into the board, but
I can't blame him. I can't blame him at all. I mean,
yeah. He understands.
Looking at the state of this game. Yeah, you kind of have to. It's rough. Well, he's like, all right, why not? We'll just go for it. Okay.
Yep, and what may end up happening, of course, is the Northshire Cleric can take care of the Leper Gnome, and the Cabal can steal the 2/3.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we know that it's not going to go well, but I think Strifecro has kind of come to that conclusion, too, where he's like, all right, there's just no way I can kind of get around this. I'm going to throw it out there. Might as well just get this game over with, right?
Yeah, well, it's entirely possible that somehow his opponent wouldn't have the right ansers, and
that's what you're hoping for.
He's just hoping against hope here.
Yeah.
And it is going to not work out as he wants it to. He may be willing to take he's probably willing to take the 2 damage from the Leper Gnome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he can get another draw done.
Yep, but he can cancel immediately with his hero power. And 16 is still pretty comfortable considering your opponent 2 cards. Still unlikely to be able to hit it. Mad Scientist is not what Strifecro needed.
If you think about it, though, think about what's left in Strifecro's deck right now, and there really is nothing that's going to bring him back against Stunner at this point. I mean, what, another Kill Command, maybe another, well, he's had both High Mains, right? Another Sludge Belcher, maybe, and that's about it. He's played Lotheb, Unleash the Hounds, but, you know, he doesn't have anything to pair with it, like, you know, Timberwolf. Have we seen both Animal Companions? He might just be running one. It's actually very possible that he's only running one in this deck.
That is possible.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely, but it absolutely is possible.
I've seen a few lately, these in this style of Hunter that only run one, yeah.
Stunner playing through these turns very methodically. At this point, he has a pretty overwhelming advantage. As long as he doesn't run afoul of any exact combination of cards that could somehow kill him while not healing himself, he's going to end up victorious. So
he is playing super duper safe.
I think it's a great idea to get rid of this Northshire Cleric too, just in case. You never know.
Well, he knows that there's no more Freezing Trap, so the Northshire Cleric, even though it could trigger a Freezing Trap more efficiently than your other minions, he knows that that's not a possibility. So he's going to just kill this off, and oh no, he's just going to go ahead and steal it. That's also a good idea. So he kills off his Northshire Cleric to take away even the possibility of overdrawing. He's saying, I don't need to draw more cards.
Yeah.
What I have is good enough.
You never know when they've got an Earthen Ring Farseer and they just pull it out and make you draw and fatigue yourself. It's
Undertaker.
He knows it's not in there, but still.
Turn 1 Undertaker, nice. Turn 11 Undertaker, not nice.
This is where you, of course, the downside of Undertaker is very sharp, but the upside of having it. And remember, at the beginning of this game, Strifecro would have loved to have an Undertaker. It could have been a completely different outcome.
It absolutely would have. Even with his opponent coining out a Dark Cultist, he had enough Death Rattle minions that he could have made his Undertaker a 4/5 and killed the Dark Cultist that got coined out and had just this overwhelming board.
Yeah, very true. But it looks like, let's see, does he have enough to kill him right now? Let's see, he could put down the Soul Priest, but that would that give it to him? Let's see, 10, 12, no, it would be
Thought Steal
just
into
shy.
Something.
Looking for a Kill Command.
And, he's got Animal Companion Kill Command.
Yep, he finds it. He could play this, let's see, so that would be 12 plus 5.
Whatever he gets off the Animal Companion.
Yeah, if he gets Huffer, he can win.
Or Leok, just 2 of the 3
oh, yeah,
would have been
Leok
fine.
too, yeah, that's true. Leok buffs everything, not just beasts. So.
And if he gets a taunt, I mean, he's not taking damage to that Undertaker. So
man, that's true. The Undertaker, a big threat right now.
Well, let's see if he wants to go for it. He can win without it. He doesn't need to go for it here.
See, this is a stylish way, though. This is a stylish way to do it.
There we go.
Leok. That is it. And so the hunters become the hunted. His own beasts help take him down. And Stunner is going to take this to a game 5. Now this is a series.
All right, well, Strifecro is going to have to rely on Priest versus Priest and pull it out, but Stunner's the one who's been able to equalize every single opportunity he's had. And now, will he create a big upset, a wave, if you will, amongst the North American scene? Because if Strifecro falls here, then at the same time, no one is guaranteed to be able to get through to the top 4.
Yeah, that is true. Are you ready for Priest versus Priest, Frodan?
I've done it once. I can do it again.
Reels, you excited? Priest, for a couple cards you're going to want to throw back there. Same thing, really. So we'll see what these guys get off their mulligans.
Injured Blade Master, a huge card to have early on in the game just because of how it can snowball your board to victory, but not guaranteed. As we saw, Tides being able to fight back despite his opponent having
Yeah, we saw this earlier in
Absolutely.
a game Strifecro himself casted with us. So if Strifecro should be well aware of how strong that injured Blade Master is right now, and I'm sure he was before that game anyway, but the point really being driven home today for him already. And we'll see
now
what he draws off this.
He does have a Defender of Argus, which implies that he has Undertakers and Death Rattles.
I wonder what
deck.
he's looking for if injured
it's
Blade Master is not the card. And the first card he gets back is a Circle of Healing. So
that one hurts a little bit. And, well, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a slower start for both players, actually. Well, so, again, we don't know where this one's going.
They've got defensive measures against their opponent.
That is true.
Oh, boy.
Very defensive. Yes.
Okay, so.
Priest versus Priest, guys. It's time.
You need to go to the bathroom. Go now.
Light shall burn you.
Relax.
Light shall burn you.
Yeah. The light shall burn me.
No.
No.
Manner. mana.
Wow, wasted 2 mana there.
Yeah. Well, he's conserving energy, right? You turn the lights off when you're ending the turn. You don't want that big electric bill, right? The light can be expensive sometimes.
Yeah, I guess if you could just click on the Pandaria window on the top left and turn it
Yeah,
off.
turn that one off
That's
too,
true.
man. That's
true.
That's right. Save some
We're
energy.
frugal here.
All right, so he's going to coin into the Dark Cultist, of course. On turn 3, or turn 2 rather, that's oftentimes what you'll see. And
Yep.
Strifecro, if he would have kept that injured Blade Master, he'd have an answer with that Circle of Healing, but didn't keep it, threw that one away, and now look at this turn, just nothing to do.
Yeah, injured Blade Master is so often
Wow.
a good card in the mirror. I am a bit surprised that he mulliganed it away. It's almost certainly not wrong. You do want to make sure that you have those powerful combinations of cards and those really heavy hitters. And he is sitting on Sylvanas, Shadow Priest, and he has the Circle combo. So it could absolutely still work out for him. He's hoping his opponent plays another minion, something like another Dark Cultist here. That would be ideal.
Not this time. We're just going to see 3 damage to the face probably, and that's about it from Stunner.
Well, if Strifecro is playing that Death Rattle Priest, which I know there's no indication of it, but again, the Defender of Argus gave me a hint that it might be that board-centric Priest that scales back on the spells and goes for more of a minion-centric approach, then he's falling really far behind. Very far behind. In fact, he's drawn the 5 heaviest cards of his deck, short of Ysera.
Yeah, it's not a great draw yet for Strifecro for sure.
And maybe that would be the reason why he would get rid of something like injured Blade Master out of his opening
That's the
hand.
only logic that I can think behind it.
Yeah. This is a big turn though. Look at
Okay,
that. North Star
so-
clear goes down. Strifecro's going to clear this without any issue, but now he has
well,
to choose.
Well, still playing the Akanai Soul Priest and clearing it out is not bad. It does make sure that health buff from the Dark Cultist never triggers onto anything.
I think that's very important here. I think you kind of have to go for it, yeah.
And either way, and you still end up with potentially a 4/5 injured Blade Master next turn. So
Right.
Yeah, some slightly more expensive Chillwind Yeti.
Yeah, pretty much. You can look at it that
Or
way.
a slightly cheaper version of a useless Black Knight.
That's true.
If you want to be half full.
Glass is half full. Yep.
Oh, but he's not going to go for it. I'm really surprised.
Wow.
I'm really
Me
surprised
too,
that that's what he's
yeah.
going to do.
I mean, this really seems like it's letting Stunner establish his board, but Strifecro, I think he really wants to get the most out of this, and
That's not going to be good for him. He gets
no.
punished.
Yeah, because I mean, now he gets Stunner gets to draw. He's going to draw into something else, and now that Akanai Circle of Healing combo will not work. I mean, he'll still have a 4/3 injured Blade Master to deal with.
It's not nearly as good as it would have been. If the board were clear and he just played something like Injured Blade Master Heal here, and going into something like Sylvanas the turn after, it would threaten to trade better with the board while not losing too much health. At this point, he is really quite a bit behind, and it is going to be hard to fight from that position.
I think he was a little bit too greedy with that last turn. Just healing and then passing was, I don't know.
Strifecro has passed the first 4 turns of this game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he hasn't had a great hand, but man, when you see Dark Cultist and Cleric out there and nothing else, and you've got the combo.
The Cleric didn't even need to be played. It was kind of a gift.
That's true. It really was. I'm really shocked that Strifecro didn't clear that with Akanai Soul Priest and Circle of Healing. And I mean, just look at his face right now. He looks frustrated. I think he's got to be kicking himself a little bit. And another 5 turns in a row. Hero power.
The only time I've seen a game like this with Priest was one time when I saw Artosis Hero Power pass for like 5 turns in a row.
And Lothar
And the
comes
perfect
in.
tempo building
man.
card.
Wow, this is going to be nearly impossible for Strifecro to come back from. I don't know. This game looks really over. I mean, like, if you look at Strifecro, how do you come back from this? I mean, I guess you have to hope that you draw into Shadow Madness, possibly. Sylvanas, maybe.
Sylvanas is his only chance.
Yeah,
but then,
that is about it, but it seems like something that can be played around fairly easily.
There's 13, 15, 17 damage.
Thought steal into his silence, possibly, for Stunner. He could. I mean, he's got a lot of minions out there, too. So if he trades Lothar into Sylvanas, I mean, as long as his Blade Master doesn't get taken away, that's okay. But I don't think you trade right now. I think you just make Sylvanas do the work.
I don't think he even needs to trade. He
Yeah,
can just
you just go to
attack
face.
in. He can
Yep.
even play the Akanai and use his hero power to the face, knowing that he has both Holy Smite and Holy Nova in his hand for the following turn. He's going to have his opponent so low that it's going to be nearly impossible for him to catch up.
Well, that would be, let's see, 13 damage incoming this turn, right? If he attacks with everything. And then I guess you could say 15 if he goes Aknai and then Hero Power, like you're saying.
Right.
That's not going to be the play, I guess, but still a ton of damage coming in. Strifecro down to 6 health with only Sylvanas on the board and no real plays here. He's got Shadow or Death.
Well, he's also got Akanai's Soul Priest and Circle of Healing. So I think actually he can wiggle himself out of here.
Well, let's see. If he does something like kill Sylvanas and take...
So if he circles with the Akanai, only the 2 creatures will remain.
Yeah.
And then he can use Sylvanas to suicide and steal the last remaining creature.
You know, that is true. That is true. He could get either Lotheb or the Injured Blade Master. You're right. He does have a little bit of a way out of it.
I mean, that works. And he's going to be on super low health, but as long as he doesn't die to burst.
In fact, he could also run Sylvanas into the Blade Master first, and then Circle of Healing, and then actually the Lotheb would get both buffs from the Dark Cultist, and then Sylvanas
I think you want the Injured Blade Master, though. That's a better target to stay alive.
Yeah, you can just heal it more, you're saying?
So if both of the buffs go onto one minion, this will work. I think if the buffs split, he might not be able to kill something.
Yeah, that's
with
why I'm
Sylvanas.
saying you have to attack into one of those. You have to make
nobody
your...
can. He can use the hero power.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
If he must, he can still just use the hero power. Okay.
Also, worst comes to worst, he Shadow Word Death, right?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. It all depends where the buffs end up, so...
He's got to make a decision. This is a tough choice. This is BlizzCon on the line.
Yeah, and actually, you know...
You got to do it.
You would want...
I like this.
See, I would want Lotheb more. I agree with this, yeah.
Okay. And now he gets to hear, or he gets to just play another minion. Okay. So his board is quite strong now.
Yep.
Well, he's also in an awkward scenario where he needs to heal, and he might just die to burst. If the opponent has Holy Fire,
that would end it. Shadow or Death does help him kill that Lotheb.
It does, and I mean, that is the vulnerability of taking that Lotheb. It is true. Oh man, this game is really tense right now, but I don't know. It's okay, so no Circle of Healing. He can't combo to kill anything at the moment. Shadow or Death on Lotheb seems solid. He'd still have 6 damage on the board to deal with.
How do you feel about Smite Face? Shadow or Death the 5/4. Pass.
I think it's pretty bold.
I think you also healed his Dark Cultist. Actually, if you want to be really bold, heal his Akanai Soul Priest.
You heal
so
the
he can't
Akanai Soul Priest so he can't
so
smite
he can't
it.
kill it.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Yeah,
No
actually,
joke.
I mean,
No joke. And next turn you get to play Akanai Soul Priest of your own.
Well, the next turn you can basically win, right? Yeah.
Well, you'd be 2 damage short.
Well, okay. So if he does 2 damage to smite, yeah, you're right. He would be too short.
Okay.
Either way, you don't want to have that Soul Priest die. You want that to stick around because you want Strifecro to not have the ability to heal himself.
Well, it's actually a tough position, to be honest. Strifecro has found a way to start turning this game around.
It's a complicated turn. I mean, Stunner's still in good shape, but Strifecro, if he comes back and wins this, it'll be a miracle. Yeah, getting rid of Lotheb, but what else is to play? Blade Master.
This gives an opportunity for Strifecro to trade, have board presence, and start healing up.
I would run my Soul Priest into that as fast as I could, man.
I think this is a turning point of the match right here.
This could be the turning point.
It really could be. Because, yeah, I mean, he's really gifted Strifecro away out of getting, out of the fact that he can't heal himself right now. So I think Stunner kind of helped out Strifecro by dropping that Injured Blade Master there.
And even Holy Fire would not be good enough after this turn.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why.
Does Strifecro sense that his opponent might be able to kill him soon with that kind of rope turn? Because what if he feels inclined to keep the Soul Priest alive as a way to push damage and answer the board?
Well, I think you have enough resources in your hand
Okay.
that you're willing to just get yourself out of range and just play more minions at the point.
Just be careful not to underestimate your opponent.
Can slow down Sludge Belcher here. Or throw down Sludge Belcher, rather.
I think injured Blade Master and Loot Hoarder might be better. This is more defensive, but you're not really worried about charge minions, and putting more power into play for trades would have been nice.
Okay, there's Sylvanas, and I do agree with you there too, and I suppose you have to worry a little bit more about Shadow Madness if you put down that Sludge Belcher as well, because Shadow Madness, you know, plus a little bit more could end the game. Still very low health for Strifecro.
Yeah. Sylvanas is incredible at this stage. Oh, he's going to go for Karen instead.
Yeah, just kind of trying to play it a little bit slow, but Strifecro, he still has a pretty good shot here. Look at this, 9 mana. He's 1 away from mind control on that Karen, or, you know, maybe even mind controlling on a Sylvanas when that comes out too.
Right.
Strifecro may actually come back here. It's possible.
I mean, now he's got ways to answer like the first body of Cairn with like Holy Nova and being able to put out a 4/5. I mean, and
this
then
is so tense.
It's very difficult.
This
but
is so tense.
I know, right? I mean, and he can heal himself. He kind of has to heal himself every turn too, I feel.
Sort of.
You can
There is a
climb back
risk
out
of
of it.
just having your taunt get silenced and having the minion attack in, and you're just dead.
Right,
true.
exactly, yeah. So you do need to, I really think you need to prioritize using that hero power every turn here. But this is why Priest versus Priest is so interesting, because you get into these situations that you just never see anywhere else. I mean, Injured Blade Master, certainly a play that can be made to get a little bit more board presence out there. He's got those 2 Cabal Shadow Priests as well, and I mean, just putting one of those out there for a 4/5 isn't bad too. If you're going to choose a minion to just drop on the board.
Yep, I like just playing the 2 minions here. I even like just attacking into the face and ignoring Cairn for now.
Oh, definitely.
You can deal with it later. I guess he doesn't want to play into Cabal Shadow Priest, so he's not willing to play the Loot Hoarder.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, Aknai Soul Priest a little bit late here.
well, he already has one from before, so the
That's
second
true,
one
too.
doesn't do much. But at least this one could be tossed out for a snipe if he needs to. And then he has that insurance later on for a Circle of Healing still.
Yeah,
So-
he's 1 mana off of, well, yeah, wouldn't work anyway.
I mean, 10 life is probably enough where you're a little bit more comfortable. If he drops Sylvanas here, which it looks like he will, and
He's
it
gonna get
gets
mind control so fast.
that is
Oh, man.
going to be insane.
Then what if he gets mind control off the
That's
top
true.
of
You
his
could
deck?
redraw
Well, but then
Yeah.
it'll just be back to the same position, and
Right.
Strifecro has a stronger board.
That's
so
true, and he's doing damage every turn.
That's right.
That is true. Next turn he can do, 10 damage if this Cairn doesn't clear anything off the board, and it really doesn't look like it will unless Soul Priest comes down for the damage to clear out the first kind of part of Sludge Belcher, which looks like might be the case if he's running into it. He could smite it too.
Cairn is pretty strong. He might be considering attacking in with Cairn, smiting, and playing something like Cabal Shadow Priest.
Would take the taunt, yep.
Yeah, so that is another option. It does get the taunts out of the way, so if he were ever to attack in with a minion and draw Holy Fire, then he feels like he could end the game. So I also like this line of play. Healing even your Cairn is plenty fine here.
Oh yeah, you're not worried about dying. It was a very, very strong turn, and this puts Strifecro in a really awkward spot. The nice thing though is that he can just steal back that 1/2 with his own Cabal Shadow Priest next turn.
He thought about healing himself for a second, but
Oh yeah, I don't think I'd do that. Yeah, and he's just going through that thought steal. Okay, so you know it really looks like he needs to steal that taunt back just for safety's sake here. And
It is one good option.
yeah, he also has Holy Nova, and I mean that doesn't look terribly bad either because he can make some okay trades there.
yeah, you kill
Cairn
off
is
the
still a
Cabal
problem.
Shadow Priest. I think you're still you're in a comfortable health range now that you're okay leaving 1 minion up.
Well, if you Holy Nova and then Hero Power heal yourself too, you have gained 4 health this turn as well. So yeah, you're right for that. I mean that's going to put him in a pretty comfortable spot, I think. Because yeah, if you do Cabal Shadow Priest and steal that 1/2,
Oh, he's just going to mind control Cairn, which actually is okay, but it's not necessarily going to be as good as he would have wanted it to be. Now his
Yeah, 10
injured
health.
Blade Master can die.
all right, Cleric not
Right.
going to be
Sylvanas
terribly
And
challenges
helpful.
the board.
Sylvanas actually ends up being a much more threatening thing now.
Unless
Yep.
Strifecro, he does have silence in his deck.
Okay, we haven't seen a silence yet.
Right.
That is something he could draw that also would be a pretty big deal, but those Cabal Shadow Priests have been kind of stranded in his hand, and that would have been another way to get yet another 4-attack minion and stymie another one of the attacks. So
Oh boy.
Of course, that Sylvanas comes down. People are going to start needing to run 2 mind controls apparently now. Oh man, it's such a good play right after the mind control that you can't really be surprised that he would do it.
yeah, Cairn is high value.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot about the creatures that are on the board per se, but he can trade his Cabal Shadow Priest into one of them at least.
I'm
gonna heal up first?
really scared now about exactly what happened with that mind control there. Okay, Wild Pyro.
Okay,
not-
well,
Does that change the play at all? I don't think so.
I don't really think it changes
yeah,
much.
you still play Sylvanas here. Okay. And so Strifecro looking a little bit worried here, but there's Sludge Belcher, so at least he has a little bit of sustain here. He can hold on. He's got his opponent down to 19, and he can clear everything but the Sylvanas.
The Sylvanas is just so scary right now, though.
Yeah.
If he hadn't used the mind control last turn, if he had chosen an alternate route, he'd still have the mind control in his back pocket. At this point, it is more scary than it ever was. You were
Yeah.
able to get Cairn, but what is Cairn if Karin or Bane gets stolen.
You know, he could Thought Steal and steal his opponent's mind control. It's actually pretty likely with the cards that are left right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And he could do
man.
that and still play the Sludge Belcher, so he could still delay things. He could get rid of his Cabal. He could get rid of his Dark Cultist. He could do a little bit more damage to Karin and get that to the second. No, he couldn't get to that, but
Yeah, Thought Steal is way too unreliable, but you might have
he's
to.
going towards it.
Yeah.
I like it. Do it. Does he get the mind control? No, he gets the Cabal
Shield.
Shadow Priest and Powered Shield. I think it was a good, try to go for it, because if he would have gotten that mind control, that would have been huge. He's going to play the Sludge Belcher anyway. He's got a little bit of extra mana. Of course, you're going to heal yourself right here. You need to keep gaining health, but it was a good attempt. It was a good attempt by Strifecro. It didn't pan out, though.
I like cashing in on the first body. Then it's less likely for Sylvanas to immediately get insane value. But now, okay, this is a point where I've seen multiple times in the European qualifiers where you had the opportunity to use Sylvanas to guarantee a steal because Sludge Belcher was played second, not first. So if you hero power with like the Soul Priest and then onto Sylvanas, you can guarantee take one of these creatures.
Yeah, definitely.
Versus doing it afterwards. A few players were confused by that, but then when you explain it's like the Death Rattle reordering is very complicated.
So what you're talking about is playing Akanai Soul Priest, using the hero power on your own Sylvanas, and then attacking the Sludge Belcher. And since Sylvanas was played first, it will trigger first, and you'll get to steal one of the two larger minions and not the slime.
Yep, that's right. The order in which the creatures are played in the game dictates the order in which the death rattles happen.
He still could just Holy Nova, have Sylvanas as the strongest minion on the board, impose, and then heal it up as a 5/5.
Yeah, be a pretty beefy Karn or a Bane Bloodhoof now, but here we go. Okay, so I like the way you were talking about it better, Frodan, because now he is going to try to steal that. No, he's just going to go ahead and take out the Dark Cultist. So
Interesting.
All right.
Buffing up Bane Bloodhoof. Yeah, interesting play. I like the way you were talking about it, though. He would have gotten a little bit more, but
this keeps Sylvanas alive. I can't be mad at that.
it's a 5-attack minion. It's still really strong right now.
Oof.
Okay.
Where's a crazed alchemist when you need one?
Yeah, right.
Well, there's no good way to outright clear the entire board. This is a lot of power over there on the other side, and you are still at a very precarious 12 life total. You've got to be thinking about how you want to best try to kill some of this stuff, hopefully.
Well, you have an opportunity to try and donate some cards to your opponent. Like, if you donate the Northshire Cleric or a Loot Hoarder, I think you're not as worried about it.
Right.
You know what he could do, too, is he could attack one of the Soul Priests with Bane Bloodhoof just to get it a little bit weaker, a little bit less threatening, and then he could kill off Sylvanas with Holy Nova and hope it steals the 1/2 and then steal it right back later with Cabal Shadow Priest.
That's true. That is very conditional, though. It's like, if this happens, this happens, this happens.
It's a 50-50, right? It's a 1 and 2 if it happens or not, and I think he's going to go for it.
Well, you don't have enough mana to do Holy Nova and Cabal Shadow Priest this turn, but the next turn, this could be a big moment.
Oh, that was such a big deal.
Nice, he gets it. That's exactly what he wanted. And looking at this board, a 50-50 chance is the most you can hope for. Yeah, I really agree with that. Great play. Defender of Argus, too. That is a good draw for later.
That enables the Loot Hoarder.
Yep,
definitely.
He might be willing
moments
to play
again
the Loot Hoarder now.
For Strifecro to potentially turn this game around. Oh, never mind. Loot Hoarder's coming down.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, it's not going to get stolen or anything, so that's fine. And there's the silence. Not too helpful. You can deny the draw, I guess. But
neither of the players had the silence in a circumstance where it would have been very good.
Well,
it still has an opportunity to do something later.
He can actually clear the board with this now because the silence brings back Bane to an appropriate power level. And then you hero power it down.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he can do that. And he could even play that with the Pyromancer if you wanted to be lazy and not have to kill the Loot Hoarder manually.
Of course, he doesn't want to use that Holy Nova with his Soul Priest in play, so that's kind of a dead card at this point.
Yep.
Once upon a time, by the way, this priest versus priest game was 30 health versus 6.
I know.
Now it's 16 versus 16.
Strifecro.
And Strifecro has a resource advantage.
What's Strifecro draw there? Zombie Chow. Okay, not the most helpful thing ever because he doesn't have any Soul Priest of himself out yet.
I really like the... It looks risky, but I really like the play where he did go for the 50-50 on Sylvanas. I know it seems a little bit counterintuitive to put your life into a 50-50 basket, but when you feel like 50-50 is your best odds to get an advantage in a game where you can put the game in a position where you might win, that you got to take it.
It was his best chance, and that's why he did it, and it paid off so well for him. That was like the play of the tournament right there for me. That was so cool.
I am a little bit surprised that he didn't play the Northshire Cleric first, because he could have played that out there as well, and had a chance for even that to.
That's a good point.
Get stolen, but
He does have Arcanine Soul Priest
yeah.
now.
He did just get it.
Man, if he was able to overcome this last hurdle of clearing everything out, things would be great.
He just does not really have any AoE left, does he? I mean, let's see. I suppose this turn you probably Cabal Shadow Priest and then run your Bane Bloodhoof into his Arcanine Soul Priest. And with only 2 cards left in Stunner's hand right now, things are looking really good for Strifecro. He can still heal himself as well this turn.
He has access to Defender of Argus, and I have to imagine that's going to be his play this turn.
Yeah,
he's going to get the slime, and the slime is at risk of dying to, of course, the Arcanine Soul Priest or potentially anything happening, shenanigans with the Wild Pyros. So if he plays something like the Defender of Argus, it will maybe he just doesn't want it to get Shadow or Death, and both these minions are for attack.
Well, the problem is if he plays.
That's a good point too, though.
If he plays a spell, both of these Pyromancers die.
This is really scary though, because what if his opponent has something like Holy Fire or something like that?
Then both of these.
He goes down to
both
1
of
health?
these Wild Pyromancers die.
Well, he wouldn't go down to 1 health because the Pyromancers would kill each other.
Oh, now one Pyromancer dies.
That's
true. Ooh.
There we go. Okay.
Stunner, this is important.
Yeah.
You lost a creature.
Well, I guess the attack was irrelevant.
That is true, yeah. He can attack in now for 3. Or does he want to clear the board? Here's the thing, though. He can't really trade minions because he doesn't really have any minions left.
Yeah, look at the state of this game. Is this the beginning of the end? Is this finally?
It may be.
Hold on. He still has the ability to clear one of the minions with Holy Nova. Or just, he's going to heal up and pass. Oh, that's dangerous. That is a dangerous game with how many cards your opponent has.
Well, he could heal himself up and he could still use Holy Nova. He knows there's going to be a lot more creatures down, though, so he feels a lot of pressure to save that Holy Nova for as long as possible.
That's
and
true.
He still has 16 health. Okay, feels like he needs to use it now.
I think you have to. If there's just too many 4-attack creatures on the board. Oh, Stunner doesn't know what to do because at this point, that Wild Pyromancer will die.
Yeah, and I mean, look at this. Strifecro, so many minions in his hand. He's got so many options to set up a really good board with that Defender of Argus. He saved it. He played it patiently. Man, I can't believe we're seeing Strifecro come back in this game. It's insane.
You know, the fact that he didn't trade with Bane allows him to heal up.
Yeah.
And then now start to play defensively. Dropping Loot Hoarder, Defender of Argus, and Zombie Chow. And then your opponent becomes on a point where, like, the second Arcanine Soul Priest and the Circle of Healing is the only out. But he already played both Arcanine, so now he relies on Thought Steal.
I don't know if I'd put that Zombie Chow down until I play my Arcanine Soul Priest, you know, just to make sure that it does damage to my opponent instead of heals him.
Yeah, but I feel like board position matters so much more than the health count right now.
Could be, yeah.
Well, it looks like he might Defender up his Arcanine. He feels like he's good enough here, and make it a 4 power. And if his guy gets Shadow or Death, his Bane, he'll be fine with that because it'll be a 5/1.
Yeah, he may. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Bane Bloodhoof would have died anyway if you would have ran it in there. So
all right, well, the race is on. Double Holy Fire, back to back. No, all right, Interplay Master.
Wow, this is difficult.
He almost certainly needed it to just be Holy Fire into Holy Fire.
Well, you know, luckily for him, he can get rid of one of these minions with the Shadow or Death, so that is something. He can silence the other, which is nice.
But that's a 3-mana Holy Smite.
It is. Yeah, it's not ideal.
It didn't do any, and then now the opportunity for him to strike back is so great because he can clear the board and start putting out whatever he wants.
This is what Strifecro kind of was expecting to happen, I'm sure. And there's a draw. You got to be a little bit careful with the draws at this point. Fatigue is a real issue. And does he really need anything more at this point?
He's got 10 cards. I think he's got plenty of time to work with. His opponent's
down
to 0 cards.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got 10. He's got 10 cards left.
It's gone. This game to say all the turns have taken so long. I felt like their cards should be more. Another Zombie Chow.
2 minions in play and 7 cards in hand.
Okay.
To no cards in hand and no minions in play.
And he can be very, very like liberal about his card trading now. He has really not a whole lot to worry about.
Cabal Shadow Priest could most likely be to draw the 4 or 5 unless he gets something better. No. Thought Steal allows him to peek into what his opponent has remaining.
Yeah, that is true. Is Ysera out there? Sludge Belcher. Whoa, that is huge at this point. And a Circle of Healing as well. Oh, man. Yeah, Strifecro looking so good at this point in the game, despite being down at 9 health.
Oh, man. Stunner actually hovered over Concede on our screen. You can't see it because we're on Strifecro's POV, but he is looking like he doesn't want to see the end of this game.
This is the final game, though, before one of these guys goes to BlizzCon. This is one you really need to play out to the very end, and there's mind control
on a board with so many small minions. How is this useful at all?
I know.
Usually, turn 15, mind control's a good card.
He's going to hope that there's a Ysera played or something like that.
This is bad
but I don't know if
news.
Strifecro runs that, actually, in his deck.
I think Strifecro realizing you're so far ahead, I feel like you can just start putting out 4-attack creatures too. Like the Cabal Shadow Priest aren't gaining that much more value by sitting in your hand.
You can see him pointing out the damage, counting out the damage on his screen. And he may even hesitate playing that Sludge Belcher because he knows that Mind Control is still out there for his opponent's deck. It's been this entire game and he hasn't seen it. So I like this. You just go for the face. Don't need to play anything big. Injured Blade Master's fine, but okay, so he's going to have to burn through this.
I suppose Shadow Madness is the only way for the Sludge Belcher to backfire, but I don't think it matters. There's nothing in Stunner's deck that really can pull him out of the situation.
Oh, powered shielded enemy minion.
I know. He can, grab the Sludge Belcher. It's an obvious play right there, but it's going to get taken out fairly quickly. Yeah. He's got a couple different ways to do it. He's going to have to trade some minions in, but that's fine. That's not a big problem.
Yeah. Why don't you take the 1/2 Sludge back with Cabal Shadow Priest?
Yeah.
Now, do you use the golden one or the regular one?
Is that what we have come to?
This is what we've come to. Strifecro has relegated our talking topics to how does he end the game.
When you're punching your golden ticket to BlizzCon, you use your golden card.
That's right. I agree, man. Yep.
Well said, Reels.
He's not even going to Shadow Priest.
Pretty sure Strifecro feels very good about his position, but yet he's taking his time to count up everything. I think you can even expend a Circle of Healing to push out. Oh, man.
He wants to draw more. He's like, no, I want to be fatigued.
He wants Ysera.
Oh, well, there's Karen Blood.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good. And he just saw Mind Control used, so why not? Yeah.
Mind Control gone. Sylvanas has been used.
Circle of Healing now. Yep.
This board is unstoppable.
Don't worry, the Soul Priest is silenced,
this
guys.
This is the end. If it wasn't the end before, and it was, this is certainly the end now.
This is definitely the end. What could he possibly draw into? Another Sludge Belcher.
Sludge Belcher. Well, he gets to powered shield it.
It may not quite be the end, but it's nearly going to be the end. Another Sludge Belcher.
number 2. Where were you earlier, guys?
Well,
wow. Okay. So, can he get rid of this without having to? Okay. I think he's going to have another turn here. Yeah. There's no way that Strifecro can do 11 damage.
Hey, guess what? He is playing Undertakers in this deck.
Oh yeah.
All right.
One of the very last cards.
Undertaker Priest. Now we know.
I mean, I wasn't sure about it because I was like, we've gone so long without seeing it.
We saw the other cards. I mean, it's clearly not Control Priest. So yeah, it's definitely that style, and he's gonna just go ahead. Now he's gonna take that 1/2. He's
yoink.
I'll do it. Yep.
Shockey's favorite card.
Stunner sitting back, realizing he's come so far. He came all the way from Australia, but it wasn't enough. He was one step away, one game away from advancing to the top 4.
Sludge Belcher, Holy Nova, just toss that out there. You're back up to 7, and well played from
be
Stunner. Strifecro, he should be able to burn through it right now. 7 health. Does he have enough this turn? Let's see if we can count it up.
Yes, absolutely. He's got Cabal Shadow Priest number 2. Strifecro has played immaculately, and now will secure his spot for top 4. He is your second representative from Americas.
What an incredible series that was, and there it is. GG, Strifecro's going to BlizzCon.
It dragged out a little bit at the end, but basically that whole game was so tense.
Yeah.
So tense the whole way through. It was down to the final moments, the last cards. It even took a 50-50 with Sylvanas that she should have